Have you ever been at a party, maybe a wedding or some kind of mixer, and you're surrounded by people, there's music, chatter, and then just boom, this crushing wave of isolation hits you?
Oh, absolutely. It's a very specific feeling,
Man.
almost physical.
It's so physical, and we usually just brush it off, right? We think, I'm just in a mood, or, I'm not great at socializing.
Right, personal failing.
Exactly. But we've got a stack of research today that says that feeling, it's not a mood swing. It's a biological alarm bell. It's your ancient brain screaming at you that you are in danger.
It is. It's a signal we've completely misunderstood for a very long time. We frame loneliness as a social failure, maybe a character flaw.
Yeah.
But the research we're looking at suggests it's way more primal. It's a physiological state, as real and as urgent as feeling hungry or thirsty.
And that's what we're going to unpack today. We have a fascinating stat to get through. We're looking at a huge advisory from the U.S. Surgeon General, some really dense but incredible neurobiology papers.
The Hockley and Cacioppo stuff.
That's the one. And studies on youth isolation in India, and this is where it gets really interesting for me, a psychological view that connects all this modern science to ancient Hindu philosophy.
It's a really diverse stack, but it all points to one mission for this deep dive. We want to move beyond just the clinical talk and explore what one of our sources calls soul connection.
Soul connection, I like that.
It's about understanding the difference between, say, damaging isolation and restorative solitude, and why your body is physically wired to revolt when you lose that connection to the tribe.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The first thing that hit me, and this is in all the sources, is the definition itself. I think this is where we all get it wrong from the start.
How so?
We use loneliness and isolation like they're the same thing.
Right, but they're worlds apart.
Totally. You can be isolated, like physically alone in a cabin in the woods, and feel amazing, not lonely at all.
Precisely. The literature, especially from Cacioppo, defines loneliness as perceived isolation. It's subjective.
So it's a feeling.
It's the gap, the discrepancy between the social connection you want and the connection you actually have. That's why you can feel profoundly lonely in a marriage or at that party you were talking about.
It's not about the number of people around you.
Never. It's about the quality of the connection.
And the sources use this powerful analogy that just reframes the whole thing. They call loneliness social hunger.
And they don't mean that metaphorically.
No, they mean it myologically.
It's a brilliant evolutionary take.
Yeah.
I mean, think about physical pain. You touch a hot stove, the pain isn't a punishment, right? It's a signal.
To pull your hand away.
To prevent tissue damage. Same with hunger. Your blood sugar drops. Hunger tells you to eat. Loneliness is the social version of that.
Because if you were out on the savannah, separated from your tribe,
you were dead.
You were dead. You couldn't fight off a lion by yourself.
Exactly. Humans are what biologists call obligatorily gregarious. We literally cannot survive as a species without each other.
Obligatorily gregarious. I love that.
So evolution built us a warning system. The pain of loneliness is a mechanism designed to motivate you, to force you to get back to the group. It's supposed to hurt, just like a burn is supposed to hurt.
Okay, but here's the kicker. This is where the research got a little terrifying for me, because it's one thing to say, I feel sad, I should call someone, but the stack suggests that when that alarm goes off, it flips a switch in your brain that actually makes it harder to connect. They call it a state of implicit hypervigilance.
This is so critical. When you feel lonely, your brain goes into self-preservation mode. You unconsciously start scanning everything for social threats.
So you get defensive?
You get defensive, suspicious. You start reading neutral faces as hostile. You're basically in a low-level fight-or-flight mode because your brain believes you are unsafe without the tribe.
So you become, like, paranoid.
A kind of subtle paranoia, yeah. The research actually shows lonely people are faster to detect rejection in a face than non-lonely people.
Wow.
Even if the rejection isn't really there.
There was a phrase in that Cacioppo paper that gave me chills. It said, social connectedness serves as a scaffold for the self. And if you damage the scaffold, the self begins to crumble.
It's a profound image, isn't it? We think of ourselves as this solid, independent thing. But the science suggests we're more like a building, and our relationships are the beams and supports holding us up.
Flick those away.
And our very sense of who we are, our ability to just regulate our own emotions, it all starts to get shaky.
And that shaking, that crumbling,
Right.
it isn't just in our heads, it is destroying our bodies. This is the part of the deep dive where we have to get into the hard numbers.
Right.
The U.S. Surgeon General's advisory had a statistic that I mean, my jaw literally dropped.
I think I know the one you mean.
The mortality risk. They found lacking social connection increases your risk of premature death by, 29%?
Which is already a huge...
A huge number. But then they put it in these terms that just land. They said the mortality impact is comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
15?
A day.
Can you believe that? Just let that sink in for a second. Being disconnected is more dangerous for your longevity than obesity. It's more dangerous than physical inactivity.
We have all these public health campaigns about smoking and sitting on the couch.
But nothing about the solitary confinement we build for ourselves in our own homes.
So why is it so lethal? I mean, is it just that you don't have someone to drive you to the hospital?
Well, that's part of it, for sure. Behavioral support helps. But the physiological damage is much, much more direct. Let's look at the sleep data from the stack. This blew my mind.
Okay.
The studies showed that lonely people sleep for the same amount of time, the same number of hours, as people who aren't lonely. But they wake up feeling wrecked.
So the quantity is there, but the quality is not.
The quality is shot. And it all goes back to that hypervigilance we were just talking about.
The threat scanning.
Exactly. If your brain thinks you're isolated and unsafe, it won't let you power down completely. The research found what they call micro-awakenings.
Micro-awakenings, what's that?
You're not even aware of them, but your brain is basically jolting you out of deep restorative sleep dozens of times a night to scan for threats.
So you're sleeping with one eye open?
Biologically, yes. You never get that deep cellular repair time, and that explains the exhaustion.
Okay, but does it explain the bigger stuff, like the sources link loneliness to heart disease and stroke risk?
It does. This gets into a field called social genomics. The research shows that loneliness actually changes your gene expression. It creates what's called a pro-inflammatory bias.
Okay, let's unpack that. Pro-inflammatory bias, what does that mean for me?
Well, think about the threats our ancestors faced. If you were alone, you probably weren't going to catch a virus from a crowd, right?
Right, no crowd.
But you were very likely to get injured by a predator or get a wound from a fight. So the lonely body literally switches its defense strategy. It turns down the genes that fight viruses and cranks up the genes that cause inflammation to heal physical wounds.
So your body is preparing for a physical battle because you feel alone.
Exactly. But in the modern world, you're not fighting a saber-toothed tiger. You're just sitting in your apartment.
And that inflammation just builds up.
And chronic inflammation is what drives heart disease, stroke, diabetes. Your body is bracing for an attack that never comes, and that constant state of alert just wears out your whole system.
It's just tragic. And we usually associate all those health risks with the elderly. I think there's this huge stereotype that loneliness is an old person problem.
A massive misconception. And the data just blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, while the elderly are definitely vulnerable, all the sources, the Surgeon General, those studies from India, they all show the highest rates of loneliness are often found in young adults.
Young adults.
We're talking ages 16 to 24.
That seems so backwards. That's the generation that's supposed to be the most connected in history. They have thousands of followers. They're online 24/7.
But remember the definition. It's about the quality of the connection, not the quantity. The study on Indian youth was really insightful here. It points to these rapid cultural shifts. You've got young people migrating for jobs and school, which pulls them away from their support systems.
So family.
And the collapse of the traditional joint family into nuclear families or, just living alone.
And the pressure. The sources talked about this intense drive for self-improvement.
Oh yeah, this survival of the fittest career mentality. Young people are isolating themselves to study more, to build their careers, to make it. They see social time as a distraction.
But the irony is, like we just said, the self crumbles without the social scaffold. You can't self-improve your way out of your own biology.
You really can't.
And then there's the tech piece of it. The Surgeon General's advisory had a stat. Something like, using social media for more than 2 hours a day is associated with double the odds of reporting feeling socially isolated.
It's the classic double-edged sword. Digital connection often just mimics real connection. It doesn't provide the actual nutritional value.
Nutritional value, I like that.
One of our sources put it beautifully. It said, the mind doesn't crave attention. It craves understanding.
Wow. Okay, say that again.
The mind doesn't crave attention. It craves understanding.
That's it. Scrolling feeds the part of you that wants attention.
Exactly. But it starves the part of you that needs to be seen and understood. It's like eating junk food when you're starving. You might feel full, but you're actually malnourished.
And this all leads to what the researchers call the regulatory loop. It explains why, if you're lonely, you can't just snap out of it.
This is the real tragedy of the condition. Because you're hypervigilant and you feel unsafe, you start to interpret social interactions more negatively.
So if a friend doesn't text back right away,
A non-lonely person thinks, oh, they're busy. A lonely person's brain can jump straight to, they hate me, I'm being rejected.
and then you withdraw to protect yourself from that feeling.
You withdraw. You might act cold or defensive because you're bracing for impact. And of course, that behavior, it actually pushes people away.
Which confirms your original fear.
See? I knew nobody liked me. It becomes a terrible self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, this is where we need to pivot, because it sounds completely hopeless, but it's not. One of our sources, the one on the psychology of loneliness, brings in a perspective that just shifts the whole conversation. It's about moving from loneliness to soul connection.
This is where we bridge the science with philosophy. The source pulls from Hindu wisdom, specifically the Bhagavad Gita. It makes a clear distinction between loneliness, the pain of being alone, and solitude, which it calls the glory of being alone.
And it mentioned figures like Rama, Buddha, Arjuna. They all went through these intense periods of isolation.
Right, but for them, that isolation wasn't seen as a failure. It was a door.
A door to what?
A door to the self. The idea is when you strip away all the social noise, you're forced to confront yourself. If your entire self-worth is dependent on external validation on that scaffold we talked about, then being alone feels like dying.
Because the scaffold is gone.
The scaffold is gone. But the soul connection idea suggests that you can build an internal scaffold. When the mind stops searching outside for validation, it learns to rest within itself. That's the shift.
From loneliness to solitude.
Exactly. If you can be with yourself without judgment, that painful feeling transforms into something powerful.
So it's about kind of liking the person you're hanging out with when you're alone?
In a way, yes. It's self-compassion. If you're alone and your inner voice is, I'm a loser, nobody wants me, that's the loneliness loop. But if you're alone and the voice is, I'm taking this time to understand myself, to rest, that's soul connection.
Okay, but we're still those obligatorily gregarious mammals. We can't just meditate our way out of needing a tribe. How do we break the vicious cycle and actually reconnect with people?
This is so crucial. The standard advice is terrible, right? Just get out there, join a club.
Go to a party.
But if we look at the neuroscience of hypervigilance, that is the worst advice you can give someone who is deeply lonely.
Because they'll just stand in the corner scanning for threats.
100%. You put a hypervigilant person in a crowd, and they will just feel more unsafe, not less. The interventions that actually work focus on social cognition, changing how we think, not just social access.
So how do you change the thinking?
One of those powerful tools, this was in the Surgeon General's advisory, is service, volunteering.
Helping other people.
It sounds like a cliche, but biologically it's a master key. When you help someone else, you force your brain to shift its focus from me and my problems to we and our task.
Yeah.
You're engaging in reciprocity.
And it must break that internal narrative of, I'm worthless. If I can help someone, I must have some value.
Precisely. It builds what sociologists call collective efficacy. The research actually shows that volunteering gives a bigger well-being boost to the socially disconnected than to people who are already connected.
Really?
Yeah, it bypasses the fear of rejection because the whole interaction is structured around a service, not just, hey, please like me.
That makes so much sense. And for anyone listening who is feeling this right now, the sources had some really clear, actionable steps. The first one is just to name it.
Yes, acknowledge the feeling without the shame. I am lonely. Not I am broken, just I am lonely. It's signal, like saying I am hungry.
And then quality over quantity.
One honest conversation where you share how you actually feel.
Yeah.
That outweighs 10 casual chats about the weather. It downregulates that threat response because you're signaling safety and trust.
And finally, rituals.
Small, consistent actions. A morning walk, journaling, even just getting coffee at the same spot every day. Predictability calms that hypervigilant mind. It tells your brain, the world is safe. I know what to expect.
It's amazing how it all ties together. We start with this idea that we're biologically wired to connect, that our bodies literally get inflamed when we're alone.
Yeah.
But the solution isn't just frantically grabbing at other people. It's about calming that internal alarm system first so that we can connect authentically.
You have to respect the biology. We are designed to be together. And I think the tragedy of modern life is that we've built a world that makes it incredibly easy to be isolated and incredibly hard to be vulnerable.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We've covered a lot here, from the 15 cigarettes a day stat to the wisdom of the Gita.
I think the main takeaway is that we have to stop treating loneliness like a personal defect. It's a health signal. It's a dashboard light flashing red.
Yeah.
And we need to tend to our social health with the same seriousness that we give to our diet or our exercise.
Absolutely. We are obligatorily gregarious. We need each other.
We do.
I want to leave you with a thought to mull over today. We've talked about two very different signals: the physical pain of loneliness and the spiritual potential of solitude.
Right.
So here's the question. If loneliness is your body asking for connection with others, and solitude is your soul asking for connection with yourself, which one are you actually feeling right now?
That is the question.
Think about that answer. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.